Hi everybody, I'm James and welcome back to Storytime with James. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. Alright you guys, this one's called Addiction. Yes man, addiction comes in many forms. It could be food addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and tobacco addiction, amongst other things. But we're mostly going to focus today on tobacco addiction, which is the hardest one to get rid of. Tobacco addiction is very hard to get rid of. It's hard to overcome tobacco addiction, because it'll manifest itself in you, and that's it. You can't get rid of it. Most people relapse and go back to smoking again. But and some people have been successful with it. But the thing is, you got to get your mind to tune your mind into not wanting it, not really wanting it. Let me tell you about me. Now, I got rid of alcohol a long time ago, back in the 80s, the late 80s, when I stopped indulging in any type of alcohol. Now you can't pay me to introduce any alcohol into my body, and also with the funny cigarettes too. The funny cigarettes, all I did was just say, hey, that's it, no more. I stopped that right when I stopped with the alcohol. But man, the cigarettes, look, when I first thinking back to where I first got a chance to smoke a cigarette was when I was at this job. Let me see, I was in my early 20s then, like 21, 20, 22, 21, and everybody got a lot of breaks that smoked. So the smokers got about 3 breaks and the non-smokers got 1 break. I don't know what they was doing that for, but it wasn't fair. So every now and then I would go to the smoking area where all of my friends and stuff were smoking, and I would sit in there with them. Then one day a foreman came around and everybody said, oh man, get your cigarette. And he took a cigarette out and handed me a Marlboro's. I forget what type of Marlboro's it was, but a Marlboro's. I took it, put it in my mouth, and was sitting there with it in my mouth, and until he left, the foreman left. It was a lit cigarette. I put it in my mouth, but I didn't inhale or nothing like that. So I said, hey, that was cool. I got away with it. The next day, the same thing. Foreman came up again. I put, pretend like I was smoking, but this time I actually inhaled, because I was talking at the same time, and I inhaled it, and it got me extremely dizzy. Got me really dizzy. So I blew it off. I said, forget it. So after that, I didn't smoke anymore until this person I was in a relationship back then, back in the 80s and stuff like that. I found a pack of cigarettes in her, like in her purse, because it fell over and stuff fell out of there, and cigarettes fell out. So she came back to the room. I said, hey, look, are you doing something that you ain't telling me about? She said, no. I said, I'm talking about, do you smoke? and she admitted it, you know. So I said, that's okay, that's okay, you know, because around that time my mother was smoking, my sister was smoking, and everybody else was smoking. So I said, that's okay, it's cool. But inadvertently, that day I asked her for a cigarette, and I sat in there and smoked, and it got me dizzy again. But it subsided, you know. After that, every time I got a chance, I was smoking a cigarette, you know. And those were Virginia Slims. Virginia Slims. Never forget this, man. So Virginia Slims were mostly for girls, you know. But I figured, I said, man, maybe I'll switch over. So I started taking, well, stealing my mother's cigarettes. I had to take about 2 or 3 cigarettes out of her pack and then go smoke them, you know. So after that, that went on for like almost a year. And then all of a sudden, I went and got a pack of cigarettes. So I got a whole pack. I got some Newport 100s. Pack of Newport 100s. When I got those, that was it then. That was it. I was smoking every day. Smoking every day. Every time I get in the car, I was driving, smoking. 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 Man, it was terrible. But it wasn't affecting me at first. It wasn't affecting me, you know. So I just kept on smoking, kept smoking, kept smoking. Then it went up to a pack and a half a day. You know. So that's not good right there. So I started cutting back. I started smoking a pack a day instead of a pack and a half. Sometimes I would go over a little bit, you know, but most of the time it was a pack a day. Then I ended up moving to Memphis. When I moved to Memphis, I still was smoking, and I started working at the job, at my job there, you know. And it was I had a partner there, a partner. He was real cool. He was my buddy. He was from Hawaii, you know. And me and him were so cool, and he smoked and I smoked. So we would go smoke together, you know, and sometimes we would go to the smoke area. Sometimes we would go across the street, you know, and talk, you know, and smoke and stuff like that. So one day he came to me and he said, look, the doctor told me I got to stop smoking, you know. So when he said that, I took it as a sign, you know. So I told him, I said, look, okay, I'll do it with you, okay? I'll stop smoking if you stop, you know. He said, okay. And we made a bet. Anybody who violates this owes the other one $20. So he owed me 20 if I smelled any cigarette smoke on him. If I smelled any cigarette smoke on him, and then if he smelled any on me, you know. Or if we caught either one smoking, you know. So that went on for a couple of days, you know, and it was cool, you know, and I followed through with it. I really didn't smoke, you know, but then on like, it was the 3rd day, I really was craving cigarettes, really bad, man. So I said, oh man, I don't know if I can keep this up. So I went up to the roof area and was going up there to check the roof, you know, walk around up there on the roof. I went to the roof area, and then I saw somebody standing up there. And he was standing up there, and I said, man, so I walked up there, and then he turned around, and he was shocked. He was shocked that he saw me. And he had a cigarette in his hand. He tried to hide it behind his back, but it was too late then, because smoke was coming up and everything. He had just puffed the smoke out his mouth, you know. And so after that, he said, man, you got me, man, you got me. He said, man, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't do it. He went in his pocket taking 20 out. I said, no, 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 you don't owe me 20. You don't owe me 20. I was really doing it because you told me you had to stop. You know, that's why I did it for it, you know. So after that, everything resumed as normal. And my smoking came back, you know. Because that day I got in the car, and the first place I stopped at was a gas station to get a pack of Newport. So I started smoking again. Then came the time when I went to the doctor, and the doctor ended up talking to me. He said, everything checks out okay with you, you know, but can I ask you a question? Do you smoke? And I told him, I said, I was getting ready to tell him no, but I just said, yeah, occasionally I smoke. I smoke sometimes, you know. He said, look, I advise you to stop, you know. It'll be beneficial to your health to stop, you know. So I said, okay. He said, man, look, take heed to what I'm saying to you, okay? He said, that's what he told me. So I sat there, I was thinking about it, but at the same time, I was thinking about going outside and smoking a cigarette, you know. So I was waiting on him to get finished. When he got finished talking to me, I said, okay, have a good day, have a good day. And I walked out. And the first thing I did was took the pack out and started packing it down. Packing it down, took a cigarette out, put it in my mouth, and walked out to the sidewalk, you know. And as soon as I got to the sidewalk, it was a bum came up, a homeless person, and he walked up to me. He said, can I get a cigarette, man? Can I get a cigarette? I said, so the one I had in my mouth, I took it, and I said, here, you can have this. So he took it, he said, thank you, brother. Can I have a light? And I said, hold on, man. And all of a sudden, it hit me. It came to me and said, you need to stop. So I gave him the light, and I gave him the whole pack. And he said, thanks, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. So I gave him the whole pack of Newports, you know. So I did that and went on home, you know. When I got home, I slept all one day. The next day, I got up, ate some breakfast, went in, brushed my teeth and everything like that, and I went back to bed. Because I was off. I was off for like a week, I think. I think it was a week, because I was on vacation. So I just kept going back to bed. So I stayed in bed like for like 2 days straight. Then after that, I got up, and I wasn't craving cigarettes, but I kept thinking about it all the time. Like every time I'm doing something, I always have a cigarette in my hand, smoking a cigarette. So I was thinking about it. So the fourth day, I went out in the backyard, was cutting the grass and raking up out there, and I went into the garage to get some tool or something out of there, and I went in there and I saw it. Yes, I saw it. It was a cigarette. It was that much, and it was sitting right there on the counter, you know. So I took the cigarette, I looked at it, and I put it back down. I said, no, I'm not gonna do it. Then I picked it up again, and I said, man, it won't hurt to smoke one, you know. So I went into the house, I searched around in the drawers and everything, and I found a box of matches. I took the matches, I struck one, and I inhaled. That first time when I inhaled, immediately I got dizzy like I did when I first smoked a cigarette. And I immediately put it out. One puff off of it, I put it out. And I stood there for a second, not for a minute, and until my head stopped going around and stuff like that. And then I went back into the house. went to the house, and I kept thinking about tobacco. Kept thinking about cigarettes over and over. You know, so after that, the next day, I was in the backyard again. I went back to the garage again. I had the matches in the garage already this time. I struck it again, and and I put it out. And that was it. That was it. After that, that was it. No more. I said no more. And after that, I haven't never touched the cigarette again after that, you know. Never touched the cigarette again, you know. So, I'm telling you, man, the addiction is very strong. Cigarette addiction is very strong. Tobacco addiction is very strong. You know, so that's why I don't mess with none of it, you know. You know, so if you sitting up there smoking a cigarette right now, just think about quitting, you know, if you can, you know. But I'm not telling y'all to do something because nobody could tell me to stop, you know, except that doctor, you know, something the doctor told me, you know. So after that, that was it, you know. But it's people that live perfectly, like, kind of healthy life, you know. That people that smoke, some people smoke a pipe, some smoke cigars and stuff like that. They do that, but they do it only occasionally, you know. They don't do it like every day, you know. So I guess you can get away with it, you know. But well, that's my story about the addiction, smoking addiction, you know. So I'm telling you, man, you can try those gums and the patches and stuff like that. It really don't stop nothing. You know, you still gonna. The thing about it is, it's the hand to mouth thing. You being able to take something and just inhaling and blowing out. It's something like that, you know. But I hope you can overcome your addiction if you got one. If you don't have one, that's fine, you know. Don't start, you know. All right, you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. And hit that bell notification. Hit that bell notification so that you know every time I drop another video. And share. Share my videos with your family. Share my videos with your friends. Share my videos with your loved ones. And even share it with your enemies. Alright. Okay. Peace. Adios. Salamat. Grace couldn't be here this time, you know. I gave off for today. Right? But look, I made a video last night that I wanted to get through, but unfortunately YouTube blocked it. So it was about birthdays. Birthdays are the worst days in the hood, you know. So well,